Okay, let's go home. I think we both come from a background of having a general question about who am I in this life? And though we come from different backgrounds, I was born in South Africa, Rodney was born in England, and we got together and we explored various spiritual paths until we went on a Zen retreat. Then we decided that's it. That's the way for us.
It was actually the first Zen retreat in South Africa at the Buddhist Retreat Center in Ikopo. We both came from a business background, and suddenly we were in this strange retreat environment with lots of hippie people and people standing on one leg and doing all extraordinary funny things, and we both absolutely hated it. In fact, on the third evening we were sitting on the floor drinking tea, and I looked at Hala and I thought, God, we've got to leave. We've just got to leave. But she seems to be enjoying herself, so I didn't say anything. Anyway, suddenly at the end of the fourth day, something clicked. And it was nothing miraculous, nothing sort of fell from the sky, and there was no thunderbolts or anything. But going from being the most terrible thing, this suddenly became quite an extraordinary and wonderful thing we were doing. That was the start of our practice.
It's also quite interesting in that a lot of people come to this kind of practice out of a deep crisis, a divorce or a death or some kind of trauma, and then they need to head onto some spiritual path. And actually, interestingly, when we started, our life was pretty good. We were earning good money. We lived in a beautiful, beautiful home on a large piece of ground, had the pool, had the Mercedes, had everything in our lives. We really lacked nothing. But yet, with all that material comfort, there was still this, what we call the hook, the question that said, is this all there is to life? What is this? And I guess that is really what drives us to continue doing this work. We have one student called Johan Stander in Malmesbury Prison who wrote to us probably 9 years ago. And we started going there once a month to visit Johan. And first it was just Johan, then it was one more and another and another. And we now have upwards of 12 regular members who practice once a week in the prison. And they do pure Zen practice.
Quite frankly, the only way that prisoners are going to become rehabilitated and be helped is by themselves doing it. It isn't going to come from the authorities.
I couldn't understand why I did the things I did. I was very conflicted about the things that happened and why I couldn't make the proper decision at the time that I had to make it. I had to find a way to find answers, and because I've always been interested in meditation, it just was a natural thing to do, is to find someone to teach me how to go inside and to try and find answers. Why am I in prison? For murder. I got involved in organized crime, and before I knew it, I was in a situation where I made a bad decision. It was organized crime. It was as bad as it can get. I was asleep and I was not aware of my actions. I was not aware of what I did. I can blame a lot of people and I can blame a lot of external situations for influences for bringing me to that point. At the moment when I needed to make the decision that I had to make, I couldn't make a rational decision. And that is why I'm sitting here today, and that is why I'm meditating, because I need to find out why I couldn't do that. But I'm much more awake now than what I was. And many people ask me, so who are you? And my answer to them is just that I'm a simple guy in the process of waking up.
So really from this person committing a crime, it actually resulted in the Zen program in prison. It's the only prison in South Africa that offers this program. And through his crime, he's actually enabling people to change their lives, which is really kind of wonderful. Good morning, dear.
How are you?
All right, how are you?
Not too shabby.
Not too shabby. Oh, it doesn't look too shabby. No, you can't.
You can't.
We both continued working. I was freelancing and actually worked purely to be able to go and practice. And Rodney was a director of a big public company, and so he wasn't able to visit the Zen Center where we started as frequently as I did, because he had a big job. And how many stores did you have at that time?
We had about 500 stores, and we had a complement of about 5,000 people. We knew that we would have to work for a number of years to be able to, at a particular time in our life, say, okay, that's it, and cut the ties with the business world and do this practice and teaching full time, which we did 10 years ago.
I arrived here at Unit 5, which is at maximum side. And there was this guy, there was this white guy, big guy, called Johan. Guy was always calm, and I used to see him sitting meditation during the day. And I thought, I'm just interested in the manner that he upholds himself, I always wanted to uphold myself in a similar manner, but I didn't know how. So eventually one day he told me that I can come on the Friday sessions, which they sit, here in the prison. And that's when I started practicing. And since then I never looked back. Back in 1995, I committed a crime, committed a murder, and I was sentenced to 10 years in prison. I remember there was this traditional function whereby when someone is going to initiation, like in our culture, the day before the person goes to the bush, there's this kind of celebration whereby there will be alcohol and people would sing and celebrate for that person as a boy now, because he's going to become a man. So it was a kind of a function like that, which me and my friends were there. I had this conflict, there was conflict between me and this other guy, and that actually called me outside. And after some couple of minutes arguing, he punched me, and I had a knife in my pocket. And that's when I took the knife out and stabbed him, and he ran away. And I discovered that later that the guy which I stabbed passed away. I was raised up with the Christian religion. So when you sit and be quiet for 30 minutes, that's something that I never did before, The only time that I'm quiet is when I'm sleeping. But sitting there and meditating and observing the breath was something new to me, and the thoughts just kept on coming, drifting me away from this moment, from observing, being aware of this moment. So, yeah, it was not easy.
If you look at the result of your life, you attain the result of your actions. So what we call that in our teaching cause and effect. Everything you do will have a result. Everything you think, say, or do will have a result. So you simply have to say, how do I live my life? And how will this thought or this speech or this action impact on the rest of the world? Because everything that happens stems from the now. What is delusion? Do you know what delusion is? What is delusion? Come on, you're going to leave school soon. What is delusion, guys? Delusion means to not see things the way they are. That everything is deluded by our own attachments, our likes, our dislikes, our I, our me, our mine, our egos. I don't like people with blonde hair, or I don't like people with smelly feet, or whatever it is we don't like. We look at that, we ask, why is it that it impacts on my life? What can I do to change that? And the more we know that the practice impacts, meditation practice impacts on our life, the more we do it.
You never mentioned God.
I never mentioned God.
Yeah, why not?
That's obviously the big unasked question that usually gets asked first of all. Do Buddhists believe in God? Right? Which God? Right? Which one? Jewish God, Catholic God, Protestant God, Shia God, Sunni God. Which God? That's the problem. The Buddha was asked that very same question, and he gave the best answer. Silence.
So Rodney is going to hit what we call the chukpi. That is our timer, and I promise you it won't be longer than 2 minutes. So please close eyes, don't check other people, pay attention to yourself. Close eyes. Keep returning to the breath. And if you don't feel like doing it, don't distract other people. My whole family is Christian. When I was about 13 years old, I asked the question of our pastor, who is God, and he went to my parents and said that I was asking blasphemous questions, and that if I would ask these questions again, that he would excommunicate me from the church. That's kind of sad, because he couldn't answer the question, obviously, and felt threatened by my question. It was kind of fortuitous that I had that question, because that made me change the way that I perhaps perceived what religion and spirituality is. And perhaps if I hadn't asked that question, and perhaps if it wasn't answered in the way that it was, I might not be here today doing what I'm doing.
Is that Lady Layla? No, it says Layla. How can I accept that your way of thinking is better than someone else's way of thinking?
Don't.
And I don't have my own way of thinking, and I can't develop it at the moment.
No, you have to. One person's thinking is no better than the other. But it's, are you aware of the nature of your thoughts? Ask yourself that question.
Sometimes.
Sometimes is not enough.
What if you have moments of waking up and moments of delusion?
Of course. We all have that. Until eventually there are less moments of delusion and more moments of waking up.
Or more moments of delusion and less moments of waking up.
Or vice versa. You decide what you want, okay?
Hi, Miss White.
Every police station in South Africa should have what we call a victim empowerment center. And when they started the committee of managing this victim support group, I started getting involved with them. I also am involved in what is called the Rape Forum, and the Rape Forum is managing survivors of rape. Hi, Zuki. Nice to see you. So let's go inside. Very often when a person has been victimized, either raped or beaten up, they can't go back to the environment from which they come from because, in fact, sometimes the abuse has happened in their own home. So if you take them from here after you've counseled them and you put them back in that environment, you might find that they are re-victimized. The incidence of rape is quite high, and we have from toddlers to grandmothers raped. In the African tradition, it is said that if you have sex with a virgin, so it could be a child, or with a grandmother, then you won't get AIDS. And this is the myth that we have to dispel. Would you like some tea or coffee? You would like some tea or coffee? Okay, so what's giving you a hard time? The practice of Zen enables one to go into really any situation, and there's no need ever to use Zen-specific language, because if we did, we would be losing our victims or survivors that we're trying to help. You've got good people around you, good support, huh? So you're not alone on the journey. Not alone. Okay.
As one of the expressions in Zen is just do it. So in our practice of being in the moment, just do it, it comes with that awful human responsibility of being able to see the whole picture. So whatever you do, your action is beneficial.
It's a doing with wisdom.
Yes, it is. And it has to have compassion too.
Yeah.
So it's a balance between the wisdom and the compassion. Once that wisdom and compassion merge, then you find that between yourself and everything else, there's no separation. And of course, that is the whole path of awakening, bringing the boundaries between subject and object, making them start to merge.
We have people, we have others, we have murderers, we have rapists, we have good people, we have bad people, and we see ourselves as separate from those people, rather like the left hand and the right hand being separate functioning things. But what we don't see is that we're actually part of the one body. Hoe gaan dit my ding? Everything that I do will actually affect you. And if you start even just tasting the power of that, we wouldn't be having all the disasters and murders and rapes that we have in the world. En jy, Popolo, waar is die sakkie met die sweeties? Of is al die sweeties al in die maag in? Nee, jy sê ek het my werk gedoen met my kinders. Okay, julle moet soet bly. Julle moet soet bly terwyl hierdie tannie op die rug lê, né?
Lots of trepidation. Yes. I'm a free man now. I'm a free man now. Yeah, I guess this is it. Today, I'm going out on parole. I'll just take from now on, each moment as it comes. Because I don't know what I'm expecting, what is ahead of me. I mean, it's been 8 years since I've been here. I'll definitely have to meet my victims. I want to consult, my victims. And though not an easy thing, I'm not expecting anything from the parents of the guy I took his life, I'm not expecting for them to say, yes, we accept your forgiveness, because I know for parents to lose their child is not a little thing, My brother was a cop. He was shot by his colleague, The feeling I had towards the person who killed him really made me reflect. A year back, I talked to Hayla, seeing that my sentence is coming closer and closer to an end, and I decided to talk to her about going to stay with them for some time, based on the fact that when you're coming out of this place, no matter how normal you seem to be, you're not normal. I wanted to have some time to familiarize myself with the outside world without being in a chaotic place, being in a township, yes, whereby I will meet a lot of people that I know who will be coming to me all the time. So I thought it would be best being in a place some I don't know anybody and under their guidance too.
Good luck.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
We will make it outside, I know. We come a long way.
Victim is victim, but perpetrator is also victim. And it is only when we place them on the same level that we can be really very effective. Because in society, we elevate victim and perpetrator is suppressed. In other words, those who are labeled perpetrators are not really taken care of and addressed. And until we actually bring them to the same level, we can't help them. We can't be effective.
Ja, water. Yeah? Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, friend, tell me, man. Okay.
The first time it was quite interesting. Everything was just amazing, Watching the people, watching the colors, the garden, When you're inside prison, being free is all you think about, But coming out of prison and facing yourself, it's not quite easy, but you just have to do it,
It's a little bit like if you go into a restaurant and you look at a menu and you read the menu, it can be very descriptive. But if after reading the menu you get up from the table and leave and then wonder why you're hungry, and this is what happens so often. The menu, which is the particular books, the particular teaching, if you just look at those and don't actually do it, you don't actually eat the meal, you have a problem. So that's why we say Zen is a doing.
Each day there's a daily task that I'm getting, whereby I'm applying mindful awareness, which goes to everything I do as a part of my training,
Just watch it rising. Okay, Onati, quickly. Okay, start pouring. one of the very interesting aspects for us about him being here is realizing and come to terms with the fact that in prison, the inmates do everything possible to resist discipline, to resist being told how to do things. Don't take it off, okay? Leave it on there.
I did that last time.
No, you
Last
must.
time I did it, Salim, but
You must never take it off this until you've cut it.
the thing is this, Salim. Last time when I did that,
No.
it was too hot.
No.
You know?
You must listen to instructions, okay? Listen to instructions. Don't change something that has worked for over 100 years because now leave it, let me do it. So rather than be all soft and cushy and saying, oh, well, I don't want to be hard on him because he's already had a hard life and, he had a difficult childhood and I shouldn't be... Oh, that's just perpetuating the same old thing again. So in fact, you have to one time go, whack, this is the way you do it, and next time you do traffic, you do it the right way.
After being here a week, his mother came to stay here a week so that they could sort of get to know one another again. And he's spoken to his father on the telephone.
Once, maybe.
I will go to Kukule maybe for some visits. It seems as if I won't be staying there for quite some time now, since that I'll be working far from there. I mean, I'm busy fixing my life here. I have to start from the ground,
He feels that he's not strong enough to go back into the environment which he came from. And I think there's some amount of fear also because the people who are part of the crime that he committed are still around. And he's really worried about going back to that.
This is a major problem with any people who leave an institution like correctional services, is when they leave, you go back often into the same vicinity of the gangs that you were involved in. And that's why the return rate is about 85%. And it's a serious problem.
Zen is shouting at my student when he's not ready to make tofu on time. Right?
Yes.
Yes, Pom Salim. So,
has he been a good student?
if you say good, you're creating separation. So no good, no bad, okay? What do you think?
You've answered it.
Good.
Everything is there, especially when you're living here.
Everything in your life is Zen. Zen means the way. And the way means everything is part of that. There's no separation. So Zen is not really special.
Wilt u dvd's bestellen van onze programma's? Bel dan 040 282 0022. Als u meer wilt weten over onze uitzendingen, vraag dan de gratis programmagids aan op nummer 035 677 1611. Of kijk op www.boeddhistischeomroep.nl.